When severe weather and emergencies occur, citizens want the assurance that emergency services will be there as soon as possible. A key factor in emergency response is effective and reliable communications. In this episode of Spotlight on Bowling Green, we will take a closer look at the city's new public safety voice radio communication system and how it will affect future emergency situations in Bowling Green and Warren County.
The old system, although a very, very good system at the time that we purchased it, was not brand new technology even at the time. And we were notified about 4 years ago from Motorola, who's the manufacturer of most of the equipment that we use, that had reached end of life, and they were no longer going to guarantee service on the equipment. And so we began at that point to explore alternatives, both in terms of upgrading what we did have or building a completely new system.
The biggest change for the city's 911 system will be the improved clarity of the radio communications between the dispatchers and the officers. There's a lot of dead spots now where coverage is not that great, so the new radio system will improve coverage. So dispatchers will be more able to communicate with first responders, getting them information and resources. The biggest thing is just having the more reliable equipment. We have a lot of repair issues now. I coordinate all of the repair issues with the police radios and the infrastructure, and there are several of them now.
One of the things that was really important about, or a consideration in what ultimately became the decision to build a new system was we only have a single tower system currently, meaning that all of our transmitting equipment for the radio system is on one tower, which makes it vulnerable to a man-made attack, makes it vulnerable to a natural disaster, and even a lightning strike could effectively take out our radio communications. And so recognizing that a single site system was not the best solution, it didn't make sense just to upgrade the equipment on that single site.
Well, the new radio system that we're sharing with the city of Bowling Green will be beneficial to the city residents and the county residents because it will enable us to communicate and have redundancy in our repeater system so that we can be assured of always having contact on a normal day or particularly in disasters. Usually in a disaster, that's when you have an antenna go down or some electricity go out at a certain area or something like that, which we did. About a year ago, we had electricity go out at our single site, and that single site shut us down for several hours that day. But this won't happen because we have the redundancy and we have it. One antenna, one site will take over if another one goes down. So it gives the citizens of our community a layer of protection and assurance that we'll always be able to communicate.
Because it would benefit both agencies, Bowling Green and Warren County partnered together in developing this new radio system and negotiated a price that was economical for both parties.
What we realized pretty early on was that there was a financial benefit for both the city and the county if we partnered with this. Effectively, the city could have built its own radio system, and the county could have built their own radio system independent from the city. But in order to get the coverage that we needed, and in order for the county to have the coverage that they needed, we would both independently spend nearly the amount that we can spend combined to make one system.
We have responders on both venues, both from the county and the city. An opportunity to bring those resources together that's been working and utilizing a system together since 1996 has ideas, resources that can bring to the table that can reduce the cost of the overall system, which in turn reduces the cost to the taxpayers of the city and the county. Utilize common channels and frequencies that benefit both the end users. So it's very vital to have all those key players that are utilizers of the system on a daily basis to bring to the table all the things and ideas and parts that we need to put into a new system to make it reliable and robust for the citizens of the county.
Because of the estimated value and the complexity of the public safety voice radio communication system, an expert was hired to work with the appropriate individuals in the city and county to develop the specifications for the bid. Once that was completed, the bid, per the city's policy, was posted on the city's website. It was viewed by over 100 companies. A pre-proposal conference was also held so that the interested companies could ask questions and gain more insight into the information. And then, as per the schedule, the proposals were received on December 19th, 2012.
It was a fairly long process. We would send out an RFP, solicited proposals for it. We got a couple of proposals. After reviewing them, I think everybody sat down and thought that Motorola's was the best proposal we did. We went through probably a several-day negotiation session with them. Their first proposal was way over the city's budget, way more than we anticipated paying. Kind of looked at the proposal and thought that's probably more than the city and county needed. So through probably 3 or 4 days sit down, we actually sat down for 2 or 3 full days and negotiated that contract back down to what we were happy with and a price from them that everybody was happy with. And for that, we're going to use one existing tower that we have. The $7 million is based upon building 3 towers. Actually 4 buildings at each one of the towers to put equipment in, make them secure, make them safe and locked up, and we'll get into them. About 400 radios, consoles for the city and county both. Lots of other technical equipment that goes along with that. There's a fairly long list, but those are probably the major components of this particular project.
Depending on the options that we select, the total price of the contract was not to exceed $7 million to build the entire system. That included both the infrastructure and then all of the new radios that were going to have to be purchased as part of that for all of the police officers, firefighters, and so forth that will be using the system. The county's cost will be a little bit higher than the city's, and the city's is going to be about $3.2 million of the total $7 million price tag.
The county portion of the cost is approximately $3.6 million for the infrastructure of the system. We have to buy a lot more radios and portables and mobiles than the city does, so our cost is going to be on top of that just a little bit more than theirs. But we started with a budget of $7 million and we're comfortably within it.
We maximize the cost factor based on at what point in the cost of the system did it become extravagant to pull in more percentages of area. So when the first original bid was placed, we requested a certain level of percentage of the county be covered, and they brought back that proposal. From there, we backtracked and utilized a cost-based ratio as to what percentage could the responders live with, what cost could the city and the county, based on their budgetary restrictions, and provide a system that was robust to provide services. So that's how we came to the conclusion of maximizing the cost benefit. There are outside agencies that utilize the existing system. Those partners range from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Kentucky Division of Emergency Management, the Medical Center, Western Kentucky's Police. So I think it's going to be a huge benefit to keep those partners on board for the simplicity of what we call interoperability. Plug up a radio, you change a dial, and you can talk to another agency. And in the heat of a disaster or a large-scale emergency, it's very pertinent and vital to be able to make that communications for decisions to be made for the safety of the citizens. So I think we want to continue that venue and benefit the rest of the agencies that are out there willing to come on board.
Many factors contribute to the timeline of the completion of the new radio system, including the number of radio towers needing to be built.
When we set out on this project, we were told that once we signed the contract, there would be about a 12 to 18 month window in order to build all of the infrastructure, to build new towers if we needed them, and depending on how many towers we built would really determine the timeline. What we were able to do is work with some community partners, our local TV stations, both WBKO and WNKY, made available to us some tower space on their existing towers to put some of our radio equipment on. That's going to reduce our need to build 2 towers in those locations or those parts of the county. And so those partnerships have reduced the need to build our own new towers in some of those locations, thereby reducing the overall time frame to implement this system. What we will have to do is build 1 new tower, and that's going to be in the Hadley community. But because we only have to build 1 new tower instead of 3 or 4, effectively that reduces the timeline. So we hope to see this radio system in place and functional in under 12 months.
We just had a meeting recently where we reviewed the final design for the system overall. We have taken shipments into Bowling Green for most of the parts on the system. Right now is time, weather permitting, to do some tower building. Along with that, there'll be some antenna installations on already existing towers. That's going to take place, again, if the weather permits, over the next month or 2, maybe 3 months. The timeline for completion of this project will be mid to late summer, with some testing following that, and hopefully final acceptance of the whole radio project will be in the early fall of 2014.
With the new radio system, the citizens of Bowling Green and Warren County can expect a safer and more reliable emergency response system and services for many years to come.
Well, the community as a whole is going to benefit on a multitude of levels. We hope that the end user, the citizens that call for a request for service, it's transparent that they don't see much difference. But the responder, the firefighter, the law enforcement agency, EMS that's out there will be better dependent knowing they've got a system that A, is redundant, it's capable of getting to parts of the county that we've never been able to get to with our current existing system. So in long terms, both the citizens in service and the responders for reliability are both going to benefit from the system.
It's going to be something that takes us into the next 15 to 20 years. I'm glad to have been able to be a part of it. It's something that's definitely needed in our community because we are working on a 1-site system now with no redundancy, and we're going to a 4-site system, which is going to be a vast improvement.
The technology that we're using allows for expansion in the future. We've already considered the possibility of future needs, and so as part of this system, we're building a system that has future expandability if we need to. We think that creates some efficiency long term in how we deploy the system. We feel like we've gotten a good system. We've gotten the best system we can get that we can afford. Through negotiations, we feel like we've gotten the best price we can get on the system that we've got. And we just feel like that through the entire process, we've looked for opportunities to reduce costs while still meeting our communication needs. And by partnering with the county, it really is the best solution for both of us.
One of the essence of any strong community is its commitment to public safety. When our citizens have a need, a public safety need, they access our services by making a simple phone call. And we use that phone call to put people out in the field to respond to needs. So you have to be able to make sure that phone call can be received and that people can be dispatched to solve a problem. The radio system will make sure that people are accurately dispatched to the need that people are having. Without that, you don't really have a strong public safety system. Our first responders need to be able to communicate with each other about an issue. And the radio system will help us provide the surety that citizens need when they call for help.
I'm excited to finally get this system ordered and installed, and hopefully we'll have it up and going the first of the year. But we're really, last year when we were down for that half a day, we had nothing going on in Bowling Green or Warren County. No crime or nothing of any great significance that we needed to be worried about. But even then, it created a huge amount of stress and disarray within our within our emergency response system, because you don't know what's happening. And if you're sitting there and you don't know what's going on, and you don't know if someone needs you for a fire, an accident, or a crime is being committed, it creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of chaos. But the assurance that you're never going to have that again should give the citizens of our community an assurance that they're going to have the best emergency services and emergency response that they can ever have.
If you would like to learn more about this or any other Spotlight on Bowling Green program, contact City Hall at 393-3000.